Simon, I have justice again. Justice. Very short and sweet one. Yes, let's bow our heads and pray. Oh, sorry, wrong place. Wrong place. Good evening, friends. Thank you, Ronald, for your presentation, leading us off on a good note. In my half-hour that Simon tells me that I have, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do a bit of parochial housekeeping. I'm going to address some housekeeping matters, and then I will address some ministerial matters. Let me begin with the first housekeeping matter. This thing going live, right? If I need to send a message, no? All right, the streaming? Yes. I need to send a message. There's a fellow walking around St. Philip South. A chap sent me a note on Facebook a couple of days ago saying, "Oh, what have you done to some release brother? Everything you do, he is criticizing you." And stuff. I will say this to him. Somebody has to run in St. Philip South. Somebody has to run against you. So I'm not bothered about who runs against you. That particular individual, I'm told that he's very critical of what's happening in terms of trying to settle in Barbados. But to my knowledge, and based on my knowledge of him, he knows a lot about crime. And he knows the minds of criminals.
Yes. Talk your talk.
But the time will come. Because I'm going to enjoy him. I'm going to ask the Lord for a couple of hours, and I'm going to deal with him because the Lord is forgiving, and he will give me some time off so I can deal with him. And let me get out of the way to let you know and let him know and let the party know that I really don't care who they put to run in St. Philip South. Someone has to run.
That's right.
I just have to do my work.
That's right.
And that's what we're doing. We are in the process of transforming St. Philip significantly.
Go ahead.
Block by block, road by road. And in fact, in time to come, people like Ronald may very well have to pay to come up here. Because we're going to decide who we want in St. Philip. Very soon. Very soon. And you are already seeing the signs. It is apt that my good friend and colleague, Dr. David Brathwaite, walked in a few moments ago. Because his water augmentation project in St. Philip is central to our transformation of St. Philip as a for housing very simple. And quietly over the last 18 months or so, his team has been doing a significant amount of work, and I believe that they have reached a stage where we should be extracting water from the ground. Next week, David tells me to address our water issue. Because we have a significant number of housing projects that were being held up because water was an issue. We got together with a couple of bright guys, also from St. Philip, and we have solved that problem. So from next week, David assures me that we should be getting some additional water resources out to the ground here in St. Philip to address those issues. So that when St. Lawrence come within the next 2 years or 3 years in terms of completion, that in fact that they will not have a problem in terms of water. I remember Fergie worked at St. Lawrence for many years. 18 years. In fact, the only boyfriend she had, she got when she was up there. Let me not talk about Fergie's business. So we look forward to that project. Ronald mentioned the nursing school at Oldbury. I look forward to that being completed within the next 18 months. I have been championing that project, getting the land organized so that it was sold.
You did.
And all going down to Valentine's. To the owner and saying, we need this land.
That is correct.
Working hard to get this done. We had some issues in terms of getting some projects done by the Ministry of Education, but I'm assured that St. Martin's Mango should be knocked down sometime next year, towards the end of next year, and we are putting a new school there. We know what we like in terms of what we want to do in St. Philip. The new school meet center in 6 Rose. Ronald, we're gonna have that by when?
Well, we just have to put in the equipment now, so.
Let's say within the next 6 months, give us 6 months. Within the next 6 months, and what is significant about that is that that will be able to provide about 3,000 meals.
No, 15,000.
15,000?
And in the case of emergency.
Man, talk your talk.
And in the case of emergency, 25,000.
That's the point I wanted to bring up. That in fact, a long point is that in fact, that it will also be available as a national center in the event of some kind of a disaster.
That's right.
To provide meals for at least 25,000 Barbadians. We know what we are doing. So when we put together the project, we didn't say that we were only focusing on providing meals for the children. We said we need to look what happens if we are struck by a significant hurricane.
That's right.
Where will the food be prepared? And that's where it will be done.
That's right.
We know what we are doing. We're systematic. Very systematic. So that should soon be addressed. For some reason, because my heart is good, my heart pretty pure. For some reason, during the course of the estimates that we're going through, in the Ministry of Home Affairs, I said, look, we're going to have to put back addressing the civic center that we want to have in 6 Rose. I said, guys, we're going to have to forego it because we can't afford it. And a chap from the fire service turned to me and said to me, but AG, you realize that if you don't do that, it probably will not get done for another 20 years. Do not miss this opportunity. So therefore, this financial year, I'm going to ensure that monies are made available so that we can at least do the plans and the drawings. So that sometime, if in 2017 or 18, we can actually start that project, because he's right. If I don't get it started, it probably will not get started for another 20 years, and I want to see it done in my lifetime. We've been talking about it since the 70s. And definitely the warehouse in Philip is developing. We need to have a fire station in St. Philip. We definitely need to have it. We need to have a resource center, and we're going to do it. This Democratic Party, under this minister, when it happens in 6 Rose. I give you my word on that. It will be done. I'm also working with the developers at Foul Bay. They have some issues in terms of funding, but they're putting that together because, again, if we have that project up there at Foul Bay, a couple of 100 jobs again for the people of Barbados. And you know, as Ronald Jones has said, I want the most for the people from St. Philip. My point is that I look forward to working on behalf of the people of St. Philip and St. Philip South in particular, and the wider Barbados as we transform St. Philip.
That's right.
By the time we are finished over the next couple of years, in fact, we better take pictures from now because we're not going to recognize the place. We are going to transform St. Philip significantly. And yes, there are some issues because when one comes into 6 Rose now in the afternoon, one can see how difficult it is sometimes to get through 6 Rose. So we can have to do the ring roads to make sure that people can use alternative roads, etc. We're going to sit down and put in some serious infrastructure because we have this opportunity. See, 6 Rose kind of developed by accident. We have to put it right in terms of putting some systems, some roads in place, because the amount of traffic that will be coming through St. Philip, we need some alternatives into St. Philip and stuff. We are going to do that. Those of you who are here from St. Philip, be assured that by the time we are finished, you're going to be very proud of what we will accomplish on your behalf and behalf of the people of Barbados. And that includes some housing. That includes some housing. As you know, there's some housing in St. Philip North, in River, and what they call the one across by the Swiss Sea, Parslan, etc. We need to get them in people's hands. Where's Minister Kelman? We need to get them in people's hands quickly so that people can start living in them. In fact, I would like people living in them by Christmas. That's what we want. That's what we want to happen. So stay tuned. In fact, even if I speak to you, there's another establishment coming to 6 Roads that will be selling groceries and toiletries, etc., etc. In other words, this smart law have looked and said the warehouse in Philip is developing. Let us get in there now because there are opportunities and stuff. Well, I forget Kentucky because you know I'm a fish man. But Kentucky is coming. You know, I'm very proud of where we're going. Very, very proud of where we're going. And it's not by accident. We sit down as colleagues, we discuss with the private sector in terms of where the opportunities are and where there are roadblocks. We try to remove the roadblocks. So that's why, as I said, that's why if I go back to Oldbury, I can drive down to the former landowner and say to her, we want to buy this land. My initiative. That's the kind of thing that we have been doing. So, to the people of St. Philip, I want you to know that you are in good hands with Dr. David S. Smith, Minister Michael Ashley, and with yours truly, Adriel Brathwaite. And we promise you that whenever that time comes, whenever that bell rings, have no fear. St. Philip will be there again. Have no fear. They can bring who they want. They can bring, I call it nobody name, or the bear or whatnot. I even called somewhere. I read that he can be sing down in Christchurch West. Right? I read that in Christchurch West. Right? You know? So, David, find somebody to volunteer for you to be there.
The train again, just can't do it.
Yeah, okay. Benji's not a bad fella. Benji's not a bad fella. So they can bring who they want. We are comfortable. So, on that note though, because I cannot waste the opportunity to remind you of what I say every time I have an opportunity to speak to you, which is this. When I sit in Parliament on Tuesday, and I look across the other side, and I see how weak they are, and when I listen to their presentations, the rambling presentations that come from time to time or almost every Tuesday, we would deserve shooting, all of us. Well, I can't not shoot them. If we allow the Barbados Labour Party to win back the government in this country. No, don't tell me, don't say shooting, say we will reserve our heads being cracked. So I withdraw the word shooting. I withdraw the word shooting. But you understand my point? You understand my point? My point is, man for man, woman for woman, pound for pound, we are a better team. To get the reins of power of government in this country.
Oh no.
We must not allow them. We have a clear strategy. You heard Ronald say that we have had some trying times. And now we see the flowers are beginning to grow. We cannot let them come and reap the harvest. And then we're in the wilderness again for 40 years. We must fight hard.
That's right.
Let me charge you because I listened to Ronald just now. And he and I disagree on this one point. I don't pay any attention to what's going on over there Because if the elections call tomorrow, they can kiss up and love up and make up. I don't look at them at all unless I have them on Tuesdays. I don't read what's going on with them. I don't care what's going on with them. I don't care anything about them politically. I just want to beat them. That's what we do. That's what we want to do. And I don't in terms of physical links, because I don't want it to be said that Adriel Brathwaite said that he wants to beat anybody on the Barbados Labour Party. I mean, get past the polls first.
That's right.
So that we are clear. Although one or two of them really deserve some licks, doesn't separately altogether. Is that? I have been reading, and you have. I'm going to deal with crime, and I'm going to deal with the courts, etc., because I cannot, as Attorney General stand here, I not address what has happened in our country. It would be almost a dereliction of duty if I did. But I want to address crime from a big picture perspective and then narrow it down into what's happening in our own society. The fuel of crime in the region, without doubt, is illegal drugs. And with illegal drugs comes firearms. And with firearms and illegal drugs, we are having more gang-related activity. Now, the United States government went into Colombia. I think Colombia was first. And Colombia, as you know, has some very, very serious challenges. And they work very, very hard to reduce, and I can't say eliminate, the drug scourge that they had in Colombia. And the problem went to Mexico. And then they turned their attention to Mexico. And so the drug cartels moved from Colombia into Mexico, and then they had some challenges in Mexico, and they came back into the Caribbean region as a transshipment point over the last couple of years. So over the last couple of years, we have been seeing the use of the Caribbean more in terms of facilitating the transshipment of drugs through us and into us, into the US and Europe, etc. So you have Guyana has challenges. In fact, in Guyana a year ago or so, they found one of these semi-submersible vessels being built where you can travel on the water at a certain depth and carry the coke, etc. Trinidad, as you know, has its challenges. Venezuela, very close to Trinidad. I am told that you have a situation where some culprits from Venezuela actually trading guns for things like toilet paper, etc. So bad that things have gotten in Venezuela, believe it or not, as rich as that country is. Jamaica has its challenges. The Bahamas has its challenges. St. Vincent has its challenges. There is nowhere in the Caribbean today, unfortunately, that has not seen an upsurge in criminal activity because of the challenges that we have had as a region, not only in terms of the economic challenges, but because of the picture that I drew in terms of us being used more as a transshipment point of drugs through the region. So the challenge that we have in Barbados, when I sat down, or when you sit down, you listen to what's happening in other parts of the region, you understand that in fact, you can see why that we ourselves have had these challenges, in particular over the last year, because of what's happening in the wider region. So you need to begin from there in terms of understanding why we're seeing more guns into Barbados, understanding why we're seeing more seizure of illegal drugs in Barbados, because of what's happening in the waters beyond us. And the truth is that every must accept that most of us have some serious challenges in terms of how do we stop the inflow of illegal substances into our countries because of the porous nature of our borders. Because a man can leave here and go up from Foul Bay, he doesn't have to send a note to anyone saying that he's going sailing or fishing or whatever they do. Go down to St. Vincent or to Dominica or wherever, come back into Foul Bay without having to register with anybody. This is one of the challenges that we have that we need to address and see how do we ensure that not one vessel leaves this country without coming through the designated ports of entry. It's gonna cause a bit of an issue with our fishermen who are accustomed going out and plying their trade from wherever they are at, because Concept Bay or whatever, etc. But we have actually reached a stage where we're gonna have to mandate that we know every vessel that leaves this country. I know where it is going. Not only from a security perspective, I said this to Dr. Brathwaite, but certainly more often than not, when a vessel goes missing, one of the challenges that we have had is that you would hear, he said he was going X, but you have no way of knowing that in fact that he went X. So you spend days trying to figure out where exactly the vessel was or is, so you can begin your search, etc. But if you have a situation where they are required, and if you need to help me here to have equipment that allows us to monitor where they are, vessel monitoring equipment, then not only from a security perspective, but certainly from a disaster management and recovery perspective, it would enable us to find a fella when he goes missing easier.
And the pilot project is on.
And I'm happy to hear that the pilot project is on. So we're going to have to sit down with the owners of our lettercraft and our fishing boats, etc., and say to them, this is a new dimension. And it's also for their own benefit and for their own protection. Because you hear stories from fishermen of them being approached by guys on the high seas, etc. So it's twofold. It's a security issue, and we're going to address that. And of course, and it's a disaster, it's a safety issue, and we're going to address that. I'm very happy to hear that the pilot project is on. So. Now, over the last year, we have had, without doubt, an upsurge in violent crime in this country. And in particular, we read our newspapers every day and we see the heavy use of firearms, and it concerns all of us. But for those commentators who would have you believe that all the government, whoever the government is, that all the government just needs to do is bang, and all the guns disappear. And it does us, it does themselves a real disservice. Because there is no immediate magic line that we can raise. And because one of the things that we are fighting, understand this, is that we are fighting a generation whose value systems are a bit warped. Now, I can understand a man going to the supermarket and stealing some food because he's hungry. I can understand that. But more often than not, when you hear about these robberies, etc., it is because they have a show on the 5th of next month and they want to buy brand name gear. I want to buy a long neck, etc. I carry some woman, I got to make sure that she head look nice, etc. That's what they're robbing people about.
My Lord.
Not because they're hungry. And you know, when I was growing up, on All Year's Night, we used to listen to the countdown by You Too Young. I got to ask somebody. Ronnie, what that place that where Ronnie now has this place there by Caribbean. We used to have a countdown to midnight by Caribbean. That time, or we used to be able to take out or sneak out and go. But as youngsters, we couldn't go. And we used to be out onto the street light crossed by me, listening to the countdown, and we would cook and have some soft drinks, and somebody would steal out some rum because we were too young to be drinking, and we would have our little thing there. Very contented. It didn't bother us that we could not go certain places, etc. Mind you, can't imagine myself leaving home with a woman named Brathwaite at the house, because if I was man enough to sneak out and go out, I would not be man enough to come back in. I tell everybody, there was a time when I was brave enough to sneak out, and my older brother Adriel opened the bedroom window for me so I can get back in. God rest him in his grave. And I was lying down sleeping, and I felt a little thing stinging. And I brushed it off, and I felt it sting me again. I brushed it off, and by the third sting, I knew the old lady. I was in charge, because her mother was, you got to come home at some point in time. And she raised some lips on my behind. But the point that I'm making is that in our generation, we understood from the values that we had, that if you did not have, you didn't go and take your neighbors, and especially take it so you can go and drink it out and lime it out and get high and then forget the real reason why you had it to begin with. It's a different value system. And I lay the blame for this different value system in the Barbarians Labour Party. I lay it squarely with them, because they brought up this fat mentality. They brought up this approach that you didn't have to work hard, go to the politician and he will give you whatever you want. So we have a generation of young people who do not understand the value of hard work.
True.
Who do not understand that from the sweat of their brow shall they eat.
Bread.
Sorry?
You said eat bread.
Eat. No, eat not bread. Eat whatever. Eat. Full stop. You hold on, Ronald. You since you get younger, you get a real proxy. So understand that we really have to re-socialize the thinking of many of our young people.
Yes.
And that's what we've started doing in terms of going into schools and going in and doing different programs for them. Because it is a battle that we have. So it's just not as simple as send the police into certain areas and crime disappears. How do you explain that you can have a 21-year-old who is almost, it seems like if he's a contract killer, right? But, so he has a different value system. And before I forget, one of them in here, I hope it one of them. But I see a story. A fella charged with 3 murders, I think. Some fella from St. George. And lo and behold, in the middle of that story, I saw the journalist wrote that he had 2 supporters in the court. I said, what is this? How do we reach the stage where we're talking about a fella charged with 3 murders, and we are saying he had 2 female supporters in the court?
He's by the release.
Right? And supporters outside understand the message that they are sending. Understand they're glamorizing this criminal activity.
That's right. That's that one.
We must do this together, you know.
It's true.
We must all put our hands to the plow and change the thinking. You know, two supporters. And when I read that, I thought to myself, but whoever wrote the article should have been charged also. No, I'm serious. I was very annoyed about it. But that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is not whether or not it is true. The point is what message are you sending out there? Because you're assisting in the glamorization of criminal activity. What supporters want? He had two idiots in the court. Not supporters, they could have said idiots. Or two clowns. Or two half of fools. But no supporters. What message are you sending? What I was very annoyed about. The other point I want to make is this. I hear the Barbados Labour Party say that government needs to do more on crime, etc. I beseech them, I'm going to implore them. We cannot play politics when it comes to some issues. And this is one of those issues. When a chap comes into your house, he doesn't ask you how you vote.
That's right.
He does not know who you are, but he might know who you are. But it has nothing to do with politics. Let's call a spade a spade.
That's it.
The issues that we're grappling with are vast. And we must work together to eliminate them. The National Security Minister in the Bahamas, for example, said to me last week that last election he found, when out canvassing, that when he was going into some houses, one of the gang leaders was canvassing at the same time. And going into houses and telling people who to vote and spending money. We cannot allow Barbados to go in that direction.
No.
We must strike hard. We cannot allow those persons with ill-gotten gains to destroy the moral fabric of this society, to destroy our young people. We cannot allow them, like I'm hearing in some cases, for them, because they have some cash, to be able to assist people with back-to-school supplies, etc. We must root it out.
True.
We must root it out. If you get into bed, and I hope none of my colleagues will ever be so foolish, when you get into bed with that element, you cannot get them out.
That's right.
If you lie with fleas,
Live with
what's
dogs.
the expression?
They live with dogs.
You lie with dogs, you get fleas. If you lie with fleas, you become a dog. I was calling that one myself. So you must take a tough decision.
It's true.
If you go back next door in Trinidad, let's go back next door in Trinidad.
Worse.
When did Abu Bakr take over the Red House? Oh no, but back to you were a journalist then.
Almost 20 years ago.
How long did that? 1981, etc. 1990, 1990. 25 years ago. 25 years ago. They never dealt seriously with the problem.
Never did.
And indeed, based on what I am reading, one or two party members or parties actually found it possible to get back into bed with them for political purposes. So, the result, of course, is that rather than having a cooling down of the criminal activity, it continues.
That's it.
Are you playing catch up? We cannot afford in this country to allow any drug barons to rise, to allow any part of our constituencies to be taken over by these individuals. And for that reason, I can guarantee you that sometime early next year, we are going to amend our Process of Crime Act, because I want to be sure that if I see a fella with a big fancy car, I know work the way, that we can seize it. I give it to the police.
That's right.
I'm very serious. But if I see him living in a big fancy house,
Seize it.
and he don't work no way, we can seize it and turn it into a halfway house
That's
for
right.
people who are drug dependent.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I am clear about this. I am very, very clear about this. We need to attack them.
That's right.
And I intend to lead the charge
Go ahead.
on behalf of the people of St. Philip, on behalf of the people of Barbados. We must do it. We must do it. So yes, we have some challenges. Yes, we have some challenges in terms of the number of illegal firearms into this country. We must work as one agency. Customs must be on board. The police must be on board. Immigration must be on board.
Right.
The Coast Guard must be on board.
Yes.
Everybody must be on board. And one of the things that we must do is that we must move to a common platform of recruiting all officers for certain areas. Let me illustrate what I mean. And I'm going to write the Prime Minister about this because we must do it. There's some urgency. You can have a situation where a person applies to the Royal Boris Police Force to be recruited. The police goes out, does a background check, and say, we ain't touching him at all, he's a bad man. He then goes to the defense force, and they do the background check, and do the polygraph, etc. I say, man, you can't trust him, we're not taking him at all. So you know what fella does then? He goes and applies to immigration and gets a job. Or he goes and applies to customs and get a job. And of course, they're all part of our security apparatus.
Yes.
So you must have one platform where you vet all these individuals.
Correct.
And we must do it with some haste. Because the same way that we place a value on the integrity of police officers, of the Coast Guard officers, we put them through, what do you call that test again? We polygraph them, etc. And allow other agencies who have responsibility for part of our security apparatus a free rein. It does not make sense, and it has to be addressed, and we must address it. Because we will not play fast and loose with the security of this country. Not at all. We are seeing. You saw me half hour finish here?
Yeah.
Give me some water then. I can spend 10 more minutes.
10, exactly 10, right?
Exactly 10 minutes. Because I have karaoke to go to tonight.
Are you singing?
But after 3 drinks, boy, we sing you, we make it split. 3 sips of water. We have, I'm going back to our security apparatus, because you see, when I listen to the other side, and I want you to understand that the security of this country, that this administration takes it very, very seriously. And it is very complex and always moving, etc. Now you see what's happening in the Middle East. And what we are seeing is some elements, but there are two points I want to make. One is that Trinidad has said to us that they have a situation of some Trinidadians going to Syria to fight with ISIS. And last week you would have heard, I heard on one of the radio stations, someone from Trinidad saying that they should encourage the fighters back to Trinidad and let them educate the youngsters there, and that he's sure that in fact that they will be able to persuade more youngsters not to go to Syria, etc. I listened to that and I said, well, you know, if he was in Barbados, I would get you arrested because he's in that with them. So we have this challenge. We have this challenge of persons going to Syria and stuff. And of course, you know that we have a situation where any CARICOM citizen, unless he poses a security threat to us. That in fact, that he has an automatic 6-month stay. So we have to decide whether or not, if we have an individual who comes to our attention that has been to Syria, whether or not we would allow him into Barbados. I think, personally, if I have a choice, the answer will be no, he has to take us to the CCJ, because I take no chances with people of Barbados.
That's right.
And then we have the other side of the coin, is certain parts of the region who have the citizenship by investment programs. We're seeing some Syrian nationals, etc., come into some parts of the region, receiving their passports because they have looked at them, etc. And the question that we have to ask ourselves is whether or not we are comfortable that because because Antigua has vetted an individual and said that he's good for Antigua, that we should accept he's good for Barbados. Again, and David will tell you this, that we discussed it briefly on Thursday, and it's something that we are going to look at very, very carefully, because notwithstanding the fact that there is freedom of movement, our responsibility first and foremost is to the people of Barbados. So we don't care, and I don't care what the CCJ says in terms of freedom of movement. If a fella comes from wherever and we believe that he's a security threat based on his antecedents and stuff, he will not be allowed into the country. He will not be allowed in. He will not be allowed in. So the point I'm making to you is that we have some very significant challenges, some very complex issues dealing with when it comes to crime and security, look, in Barbados and in the region. And we understand the issues. Some of the challenges that we have, we cannot solve overnight. It is not a case of putting on a switch and then disappear. We are working hard. Ronald will tell you, it's not by accident that he started this school. Ronald, what do you call your school down like on the hill? Again? New Horizons School. Because we recognize that there's some individuals who need more one-on-one attention. We're doing that. I heard a young man who he probably did the speech on behalf of the others, the Adriel program. I heard an extract from him. And he was saying what a difference the program made for him and the others. These are individuals, these are young people who had challenges and who via sport, we are putting them through a program so that they become more disciplined, so that in fact we can save them. We are taking some very serious initiatives trying to address the deviancy of our young people. Again, my colleagues will tell you that I have said this year I would like us to find the money to put more attention into the Barbados Youth Service, because we have to tackle the challenges of more of our young people. We can't do everything at once. We have some fiscal challenges, like other parts of the region. But we're going to have to cut from some other places. We have to make some tough decisions. We might have to, for example, decide whether or not it is more important to get another 100 lawyers in Barbados, or to be able to spend the money on the youth service and save 200 young people. Those are the kind of decisions that we're going to have to make. And we're going to make them because one of the things that I can assure you, that we have never been afraid to take the tough decisions. We've never been afraid. We have to, because we cannot. This morning, Pastor Connolly, yes, talk with the church service. I'm going to end where I started. This morning, praise the Lord. You want me to stop talking?
No, never.
This morning, Pastor Connolly went away from her presentation, and she was lamenting on the different value system in terms of the children, the challenges that the children have today, and what worked in her day. And she was making the point that in fact that we need to go back to all of us assisting in the raising of our children. She's making that point. That we cannot leave it to the mothers and fathers alone. Because it's obvious to me, it should be obvious to you, that many of them are failing. So we need to reach out and lend a hand where we can. And I've been saying this, you notice I've become almost evangelical about this. That we have to help more of these young people. We have to help the mothers. The mothers are not of the stern stock that my mother certainly. My mother was. Forget all you get. You were 5 feet. My mother was 5'3" then. Wow. And 5'3", 4 big men at her house. But she used to say, because you see the water foaming, right? There's only one man in this house, that's me. There's only one woman in this house, that's me. And as I said, we were all taller than mom. But there was no doubt who was in charge. No doubt whatsoever. And she was willing to sacrifice for us. I said last week, and I say it again tonight, that somewhere down the line, our young people, our young parents, not willing to sacrifice so that these children can have the kind of discipline that is required. It is a challenge that we have as a society. There is no instant answer. The Prime Minister, and I'm going to come down. The Prime Minister this morning made a very telling point. George, when the Prime Minister got up to speak this morning, he said, wait, I'm supposed to say a few words. I think when to set that up. Because I can't believe that he did not know that he had to say a few words and spoke so fluently, so on point. And he was making the point that as we approach our 50th anniversary, we need to look back and examine what worked, look inward, see what is working for us and what isn't working for us. Look forward and see what we want to take forward with us. There are some things that is clear to me that we can look back and learn from. And one of those things is a simple thing. And I use my neighbor, BC, now a blessed memory, as a good example. And I can shut up now. When I went down to Harrison College in 1972, I know nothing about Bridgetown. I missed the 3 o'clock bus. The bell used to ring at 43. We used to run across by the river and take the 3 o'clock bus and stuff. I missed the 3 o'clock bus. And the fellas tell me that we have to take the 4 o'clock bus. The fellas took me across to some street, a street that Michael Carter's very often now. Because I saw him cross there up to 2 weekends ago. Sorry? No, I'm a man now, so I can go now. I'm a man, I can go now. I normally go by the supermarket. I don't know where things go. And the fellas took me across to this street playing ping pong. And I saw one of my neighbors, BC there, and I spoke to him. You remember BC? I spoke to him. BC went and took the 3:30 bus home. And before he could leave house, he walked past the house and got to tell man that I'm in Nelson Street. I came home as usual, nice boy that I was. And mom stayed up, hand behind your back, looking stern and stuff. So I can't figure out what's going on. We went. I said, Mom, I missed the 3 o'clock bus. I took the 4 o'clock bus and I came straight home. You want me to cross Nelson Street? Me, Mom? I should never go cross Nelson Street. Because, of course, in my eyes, Nelson Street is a place where women are naked and men are naked, etc., etc. I cannot imagine that Nelson Street was a normal place you can go and have a drink and play ping pong, etc. I related and I told her that I went across this street, cross the road. She said, well, that's Nelson Street. I said, oh, yeah, Mom. I had no idea. As wicked a man as BC was, and BC was no sweet bed, BC walked past his house to let my mother know that I was on Nelson Street because he did not expect to see me in Nelson Street. And he will not have or would not have Gordon Brathwaite's child being deviant and hanging out in Nelson Street. That is the value of the village and everybody playing a hand. The difference nowadays is that people tell a young fella, come and go across Nelson Street and hang out and drink one at 13 or 14, etc. That's the difference. And these are the kind of things that when we look back, we need to extract and see how we can change what's happening in this society. I thank you. I end by reassuring you that St. Philip is in good hands. Have no fear.